In these days we live, the pride of man will lead you down a dark road. I spent a great bit of my early life believing that men are depraved and there are no good in a man unless he had truly become saved from sin. In my late 20s, I adopted teachings that unless Yahuwah draw you into his kingdom, you will remain deprived throughout your entire life. Because I was let down by some who I considered very close to me, I learned from a very early age not to trust people, because you may not know a person as well as you thought you did. So the doctrines of depravity came mainly from the Presbyterian Church. Even though I wasn't a member of the church, I carried some of their doctrines, like you can't come to the Father unless he draws you to him. So I believe there is no choice to accept his word unless he wants you to. So people that are deprived from their birth would never come to accept salvation because they are dead spiritually. Like Elisha being dead from the grave and Yahushua called him out, in the same way a person is called out from the spiritual dead. Elisha had no power in himself to come out from the grave. He came forth from the power of Yahuwah. The same with the person who is spiritually dead. He has no power on his own to come out from the dead. He needs the power of Yahuwah to bring him out. So there is a cross between those who teach that you have a decision to accept or not accept deliverance. Some of us will come to accept that which was taught and just go along with those teachings. But I believe I owe it to myself to find out what is truth and what is not true. Yehukanan 11:40-46 reads, Yahushua said to her, Did I not say to you that if you believe, you shall see the esteem of Elohim? So they took away the stone where the dead man was laid, and Yahushua lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. And I know that you always hear me, but because of the crowd standing by, I said this, in order that they may believe that you sent me. And when he said this, he cried out with a loud voice, Elisha, come out. And he who died came out bound feet and hands with wrappings, and his face was wrapped with cloth. Yahushua said to them, Loosen him and let him go. Therefore many of the Yahudim who had come to Miriam and had seen what Yahushua did believed in him. So Elisha wasn't given the choice to come out from the grave. He was demanded to come forth by the power of Yahuwah. So I believe that you must have believing faith in order to have deliverance, but you must be given that believing faith. I believe that Yahuwah knew his children from the foundations of the creation. He already knows who will come to accept him. That's why we must pray continually for his mercy without cease and seek him with our hearts, mind, and Ruach. He said if we seek him that way, we will find him. 2 Malachi 2. And it came to be when Yahuwah was to take up Eliyahu to the Shamayims by a whirlwind, that Eliyahu went with Elisha from Gilgal. And Eliyahu said to Elisha, Please remain here, for Yahuwah has sent me on to Baitum. And Elisha said, As Yahuwah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you. And they went down to Baitum. And the son of the prophets who were at Baitum came out to Elisha, and said to him, Do you know that Yahuwah is taking away your head? And he said, I also know. Be silent. And Eliyahu said to him, Elijah, please remain here, for Yahuwah has sent me on to Jericho. And he said, As Yahuwah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you. And they came into Jericho. And the sons of the prophets who were at Jericho came to Elisha and said to him, Do you know that Yahuwah is taking away your Adonai from over you today? And he said, I also know. Be silent. And Eliyahu said to him, Please remain here, for Yahuwah has sent me on to the Jordan. And he said, As Yahuwah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you. And the two of them went on. And 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood facing them at a distance, while the two of them stood by the Jordan. And Eliyahu took his robe and rolled it up and struck the water, and it was divided this way and that, so that the two of them passed over on dry ground. And it came to be when they had passed over that Eliyahu had said to Elisha, Ask what I should do for you before I am taken away from you. And Elisha said, Please let a double portion of your spirit be upon me. And he said, You have made it hard to ask. Yet if you see me when I am taken away from you, it is yours. But if not, it is not. And it came to be as they continued on and spake that they see a chariot of fire with horses of fire which separated the two of them. And Eliyahu went up by a whirlwind into the Shamayim. And Elisha saw it, and he cried out, my father, the chariots of Yeshurun and his horsemen. And he saw him no more. Then he took hold of his own garments and tore them into 2 pieces. And he took up the robe of Eliyahu that had fallen from him and went back and stood by the banks of the Jordan. And he took the robe of Eliyahu that had fallen from him and struck the water and said, Where is Yahu Elohim of Eliyahu? And he struck the water, and it was divided this way and that, and Elisha passed open. And when the sons of the prophets who were at Jericho saw him, they said, The spirit of Eliyahu rests on Elisha. And they came to meet him and bowed to the ground before him. And they said to him, Look, there are 50 strong men with your servants. Please let them go and search for your Adonai, lest the Ruach of Yahuwah has taken him up and cast him upon some mountain or into some valley. And he said, Send no one. But they pressed upon him until he was ashamed, and he said, Send. So they sent 50 men, and they searched 3 young men, but did not find him. And they returned to him, for he remained in Jericho. And he said to them, Did I not say to you, Do not go? And the men of the city said to Elisha, Look, the sight of the city is good, as my Adonai sees, but the mines are spoiled and soil barren. And he said, Bring me a new bowl and put salt in it. And they brought it to him. And he went out to the sources of water and drew salt therein and said, Thus saith Yahuwah, I have healed the water, no longer shall death or barrenness come from it. And the mine were healed to this young, according to the word of Elijah, which he spoke. And he went up from there to Bidal, and as he was going up the way, some youths came from the city and marked him, and said to him, Go up, bald head, go up, bald head. And he turned around and looked at them and pronounced a curse on them in the name of Yahuwah. And 2 female birds came out of the forest and tore to pieces 42 of the youths. And from there he went to Mount Carmel, and from there he returned to Shamaron. The power of Yahuwah was given to Elisha after Eliyahu was caught up to the Shamayim in a whirlwind. I believe this power comes in the same form we receive today as the Ruach HaKodesh. We know the Ruach of Yahuwah sent his power on those that have believing faith. When we receive the Ruach HaKodesh, the power of Yahuwah, we began having the desire to serve Yahuwah and not the things of this world. The things of this world, such as Christmas, Easter, and other pagan holidays, days the world considered holy. It's like scales coming from off our eyes, and we can now see the world from a different view. I no longer have a desire for Christmas because I know it's fake. They want you to recognize Yahushua, aka Jesus' birthday on December 25th, when there's nowhere in Scripture that tells us to do so. When you come to recognize they celebrated Zeus' birthday along with many other pagan deities, you can see how easy it was for them to incorporate Jesus into the mix. I believe these fake holidays are things made from this world, and the Father says not to conform to the things of this world. You cannot serve both the things of this world and the things that are from Yahuwah. You will love one and despise the other. When Yahuwah gives you a talent, you don't go out and bury it into the ground. You must take that talent and try to make it into 2 talents. The same way you receive information from Yahuwah, you don't hold that information to yourself. You must go out and share that information as good news from the kingdom. Tehillim 104. Bless Yahuwah, O my beings, O Yahuwah my Elohim. You have been very great. You have put on excellency and splendor. Covering yourself with the light as with a garment, stretching out the Shamayim like a curtain. Who is laying the beams of his upper room in the Mayans, who is making the thick clouds his chariots, who is walking on the wings of the wind, making his messengers the wings, his servants a flame of fire. He established the rest on its foundations, so that it would not totter forever. You covered it with the deep as with a garment. The Mayans stood above the mountains. At your rebuke they flee. At the voice of your thunder they hurried away. They go up the mountains, they go down the valleys, to the place which you founded for them. You did set a boundary not to pass over. They do not return to cover the arrest. Who are sending the springs into the valleys? They flow among the hills. They give drink to every beast of the field. Wild donkeys break their thirst. The birds of the Shamayim dwell beside them. They sing from between the branches. Watering the hills from the upper rooms, the arrest is satisfied with the fruits of your works. causing the grass to grow for the cattle and plants for the service of mankind, to bring forth food from the arrest, and wine that makes glad the heart of man, and oil to make the face shine, and bread which sustains man's heart. The trees of Yahuwah are satisfied, the cedars of Lebanon which he planted. Where the birds do make their nests, the stork has her home in the fir trees. The high hills are for the wild goats, rocks and refuge for rock badgers. He made the moon for its appointed times, the sun knows when it's going down. You put darkness and it is Layla, in it all the beasts of the forest creep. The young lion are roaring for prey, and seeking their food from all. The sun arises, they withdraw, and lay down in their dens. Man goes out to his work, and his labor till evening. O Yahuwah, how many have been your works? You have made all of them in wisdom. The arrest is filled with your possessions. There is a sea, great and wide, in which are innumerable swarms, living creatures, small with great. There the ships go, that Lutheran, which was made to play there. All of them wait for you to give their food in due season. You give them, they gather in. You open your hand, they are satisfied with good. You hide your face, they are alarmed. You take away their breath, they die, and return to their dust. You send forth your Ruach, they are created, and you renew the face of the arrest. The esteem of Yahuwah is forever. Yahuwah rejoices in its works. Who looks on the arrest and it trembles. He touches the mountains and the smoke. I sing to Yahuwah as long as I live. I sing praises to my Elohim while I exist. My meditation on him is sweet. I rejoice in Yahuwah. Let sinners be consumed from the arrest. Let the lawless ones be no more. Bless Yahuwah, O my beings. Praise Yah. We must exhort our beings in meditation towards Yahuwah. We must stay in prayer and meditation at all times. Shaitan doesn't want you to find truth, so he'll set up stumbling blocks to get you off track. He may put things in your life to make you think, no, if there was truth here, then these things would not have occurred. But Yahuwah says if you seek him with all your beings, you will find him. I remember around 5 years ago or more, I began praying to Yahuwah for him to show me his truth. I don't know what made me pray like that, but I did. And going on more than 2 years ago, the Father name Yahuwah was revealed to me. There were a couple of modern Hebrew names mixed in there to confuse things at first, but when I found his true name, I knew. My 3rd year in the military, I was getting married, and my wife came up to live with me the last year at the fort where I was stationed. So I got an apartment on post for the both of us to stay. The apartment was so far out, I needed my car for transportation. So there were a couple of guys that made a proposal to me about sharing apartments and paying rent. I told each one of them 2 different occasions, no, the apartment only had 1 bedroom. One of them that seemed to be desperate said him and his wife would sleep on the couch. I told him no, the apartment had only 1 bathroom, and the bathroom was inside with the 1 bedroom. I felt bad that I couldn't help him out, but I had to look out for my soon-to-be wife. It turned out when I found out later that he was telling the truth about wanting to be with his wife. Still, I became overprotective of my wife because I learned at an early age that people had been deprived of Ruach, especially from the neighborhood I came from. It turns out that one of the guys that asked to share apartments found someone else, and the person he found was circling around back home and was sleeping with the man's wife. His wife would go to work while he would drop off the guy he shared apartments. Both the guy and his wife were Mexicans. Then he circled back around to be with the man's wife. I didn't know any of those guys well enough to trust them around my family. He was a nice guy, a very friendly guy who I hung out with a little bit, but I would not trust him around mine or anyone else's wife. Sometimes you can end up doing more harm than good helping someone if you really don't have the right calling to help them. I once knew someone that would put things in my ears that caused me to mistreat this female I dated. He had me thinking that she wasn't totally honest and helped put a wedge between us. And now I'm thinking back to those times and I believe that he probably was doing the same thing to her. I understand that depravity of someone with a lustful loyalty is not in the equation. So unless you know for sure that someone is a child of the kingdom of Yahuwah, I wouldn't totally trust them. We all fall short. Scripture says, he whom blasphemes the Father or the Son can be forgiven, but he whom blasphemes the Ruach Qodesh will not be forgiven. If you deny Yahuwah's power to forgive sin, you will not be forgiven. That power comes in the form of the Ruach Qodesh. 1 Thessalonians 4. For the rest then, brother, we beg you to call upon Adonai Yahusha, that as you receive from us how you should walk and to please Yahuwah, you should excel still more. For you know what commands we gave you through Adonai Yahusha. For this is the desire of Yahuwah, your Qodeshness, that you should abstain from whoring, that each one of you should know how to possess his own vessel in Qodeshness and respect, not in passion of lust like the Gaian who do not know Yahuwah, not to overstep and take advantage of his brother in this thing, because the Adonai is the revenger of all such, as we indeed said to you before and earnestly warned. For Yahuwah did not call us to uncleanness, but in Qodeshness. Therefore he who rejects this does not reject man, but Yahuwah, who also gave us his Ruach HaKodesh. And it is not necessary to write to you about brotherly love, for you yourselves are taught by Yahuwah to love one another. For in fact you do so towards all the brothers who are in all Macedonia, but we call upon you, brothers, that you do so more and more, and to make it your ambition to live peacefully and to attend to your own, and to work with your own hands, as we commanded you, so that you behave decently towards those who are outside, and not be in any need. Now, brothers, we do not wish that you be ignorant concerning those who have fallen asleep, lest you be sad as others who have no hope. For if we believe that Yahusha died and rose again, so also Yahuwah shall bring with him those who sleep in Yahusha. For this we say to you by the word of Adonai, that we, the living who are left over at the coming of Adonai, shall in no way go before those who are asleep. Because Adonai himself shall come down from heaven with a shout, with the voice of a chief messenger, and with the trumpet of Yahuwah, and the dead in Mashiach shall rise first. Then we living who are left over shall be caught away together with them in the clouds to meet Adonai in the air. And so we shall always be with Adonai. So then, encourage one another with these words. I know prayers are a very important tool used to find a connection with the Father. Yahuwah wants a relationship with his children, but I believe obedience is more important than worship and sacrifice. We must obey the Besorah. I continue to fall short, but I won't give in to not serving Yahuwah and trying to do his will. So when you come into a stumbling block, you must find a way to get past it. At times you would need Yahuwah's help to get by, but with the strength of Yahuwah, you will get past it. Everything that looks good to you is not good for you. So we must seek first to get the mindset to please the Father Elohim before pleasing self. This world we live in is full of principalities that don't want you serving Yahuwah. Shaitan wants to detour you from knowing the truth. Mashal 10, Proverbs of Shalimar. A wise son makes his father rejoice, but a foolish son is his mother's sorrow. The treasures of lawlessness are of no value, but obedience delivers from death. Yahuwah does not let the beings of the obedience go hungry, but he thrusts away the desire of the lawless. Poor is he who works a lazy hand, but the hand of hard workers make wealth. He who gathers in the summer is a wise son. He who sleeps in harvest is a son who causes shame. Blessings are on the head of the obedient, but violence covers the mouth of lawless. The remembrance of the obedience is blessed, but the name of the lawless ones rot. The wise in heart accepts commands, but the one with foolish lips falls. He who walks in integrity walks safely, but he who perverts his ways become known. He who winks with the eye causes sorrow, and one with foolish lips falls. The mouth of the obedient is a fountain of life, but violence covers the mouth of the lawless. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. Wisdom is found in the lips of him who has understanding, but it rides for the back of him who lacks heart. The wise treasure up knowledge, but the mouth of fools is near ruin. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, the ruin of the poor is their poverty. The wages of obedience is for life, the increase of lawlessness is for sin. When words are many, transgression is not absent, but he who restrains his lips is wise. The tongue of the obedient is choice silver, The heart of the lawless is of little value. The lips of the obedient shepherd many, but fools die for lack of heart. The blessings of Yahuwah makes one rich, and he adds no pain with it. The work of wicked schemes is like sports to a fool, but wisdom is for a man of understanding. What the lawless one fears comes upon him, but the desire of the obedient is granted. As the whirlwind passes by, the lawless one is no more, but the obedient has an everlasting foundation. As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the lazy one to those who send him. The fear of Yahuwah prolongs young, but the years of the lawless ones are shortened. The obedient look forward to joy, but the expectancy of the lawless ones perish. The way of Yahuwah is a stronghold for the perfect, but ruin to the workers of wickedness. The obedient is never shaken, while the lawless shall not dwell in the arrest. The mouth of the obedient brings forth wisdom, but the tongue of the perverseness is cut out. The lips of the obedient knows what is pleasing, but the mouth of the lawless speaks perverseness. We must remain obedient to Yahuwah. Yahuwah didn't go about doing the things that pleased him while he dwelled among us. He did the things of the Father which was laid out before the foundations were made. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing. If Yahuwah is willing, I'll see you on the next video. So until then, stay blessed and be blessed, and continue to be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise Yahuwah.